There's a lot of discussion about purpose and a lot of organizations that are looking at purpose in companies. But what really distinguishes this report are three things. The first is that it provides a conceptual basis to thinking about why purpose really matters. Why does it affect and how does it affect the way in which companies behave and the performance of economies? The second is that it provides evidence from lots of sources, from economics, finance, and management, that purpose really does matter. It matters in terms of how well companies do, and it matters in terms of how the economy as a whole functions. And there is now overwhelming evidence that purpose is really important in terms of the delivery of both corporate objectives and economic well-being. The third element is that it provides a way of looking at the issue from all the relevant perspectives. Some organizations look at it in terms of one out of the three main components. The three components are companies and businesses themselves. The second are their investors. And the third is the ecosystem, the regulation and policies and laws that affect the way in which institutions and companies operate. And what emerges is that to have real purposeful companies, one has to have commitment within organizations, right from the top, from the board down to the shop floor. While that's a necessary requirement, it's not sufficient, because unless the interests of investors and owners are aligned with that of companies, then the good intentions of senior management come to little. But even investors and companies aligned are not sufficient. One also has to have the right ecosystem, the right regulations and laws and taxation to promote purposeful companies. And that's where a lot of the problems in the case of the UK have gone wrong, because we haven't had the necessary combination of leadership from the top, right embedded throughout organizations, the right types of ownership, and the right policies and legal and regulatory frameworks to deliver. And in particular, the report brings out the significance of ownership and dedicated, concentrated, engaged, long-term ownership to support purposeful companies and purposeful management in being able to deliver what those companies are seeking to do. And that it's important to have the right laws and regulations that allow those owners, those large engaged block holders to emerge, and for companies to be able to pursue those objectives. Now, we've done what we can in terms of delivering the objective, independent evidence that we think is needed in this area. But there's a limit to the amount that we can do. And we're now looking to you to take this forward. And in particular, we want you to comment on what we've done. And we set out a series of possible policy proposals that can be taken forward in terms of requiring companies, perhaps, to be clear and to specify their purpose, to measure their performance in such a way as to show how they're actually delivering on their purpose beyond just their financial performance, to set out how the incentive arrangements in organizations can be aligned with the delivery of purpose. We talk about reforms that can take place in terms of corporate governance and law to provide commitment vehicles by which companies, the leaders, and institutional investors can really commit to the delivery of purpose. And we look at new ways in which one can essentially create the equity ownership that is required to achieve that, in terms of facilitating and encouraging the emergence of blockholders and really engaged investors, and looking for new types of equity investors, from employee engaged owners through perhaps to sovereign funds. And we look at issues such as the extent to which one can promote a better relationship between different forms of finance, eliminating perhaps the tax incentives that exist to use debt in favor of equity. We set out a whole series of policy proposals, and what we want you to do is to comment on those and to set out what you think are really the practical ways of going forward, and to come forward with your own ideas. This issue of purposeful companies is becoming increasingly important as technologies open up new opportunities and make intangible investments all the more important. Now is the time really to grasp this, and we're looking to you to help us in taking this to completion. Thank you very much.